there's an article that says 70% of kids say it's the number one issue they face, but kids are saying that their schools aren't prioritizing it. That's a problem. So what can districts do to help support this? How about having a director of social and emotional learning? This is something that districts are starting now to do. Okay? They're starting to put money into having someone to create programming and prioritize the emotional wellness and needs of their students. Okay? That's a really important thing. I think we would all agree that districts could allocate more money towards adjustment counselors. When there's budget crises, who are the first people to go? Counselors. But if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are you ever going to have academic success if a student doesn't feel safe emotionally? No. So we're like cutting out the foundation of student wellness, but still expecting them to achieve. That doesn't make any sense. Here's another idea, right? Too often, we can't fund in a budget more adjustment counselors, yet we have professionals sitting in offices not having clients during the day because the kids are in school. So why not allow these practitioners to come into the schools and meet with students privately? It's not funded through the school, it's funded through private health care. And it's a way of getting them into the school. So if we can't fund staff through district budget, doesn't mean that we shouldn't prevent kids from having these resources. All it requires is a room. It's way cheaper than another person's salary. It's something we should consider. I understand that with unions or whatever the case may be, it's controversial. But again, are we going to put money? Are we going to put a price on students' mental health? SEL programming, okay? So there's DARE programming in schools, right? Like keep kids off drugs. Now I'm not saying all drug problems are rooted in emotional wellness, but a lot of them are. So like, don't do drugs. What do we know when we tell kids not to do something? They're gonna do it, right? So instead of saying don't do drugs, maybe we should have programming on SEL so that we can get kids feeling better about themselves, so then maybe they don't do drugs, right? So start with Hello Week, the Sandy Hook Promise. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. We all know Sandy Hook. So they have programming that you can bring into schools. One of them is Start with Hello Week. And the concept is go up to someone, say hello, right? That might make that person's day. If someone had said hello to me instead of like, oh, she's weird, like it might have made all the difference in the world for me. Allow kids to create groups. One of the schools that I worked in, there was a student-run group called A New Mentality. And it was kids, although it's kind of a juxtaposition, right? Like we're gonna have a group for kids with anxiety where we talk about anxiety, like no one's gonna go because they're too anxious to go. But like the concept is there, right? It's great, and it's student-run, it empowers them, and they also educated the rest of the school about the issues of social and emotional wellness that they were dealing with. And another thing that kind of drives me crazy is every time we have like school-wide programming, it's always like the story of someone that had substance abuse. And I'm not saying I'm not sensitive to that, but like I've never been in a district where they bring in someone that has had a mental illness, right? Like not all mental illness leads to substance abuse. A lot of it can and does, but there's people out there that we hear like high-functioning anxiety, right? Like I'm definitely a high-functioning anxious person, but I think that more people could relate to me than maybe do. But you know, I'm not going to just come into a school and talk about my anxiety, but maybe we should. We need to have advocates come into the school. Flex blocks. I think schools need to allow time during the day where kids can seek out maybe like group counseling, right? Instead of being pulled out of class because that exacerbates anxiety. You want a kid to go see an adjustment counselor, but they keep being pulled out of math once a week, right? Now they're falling behind in math, which is going to do what to their anxiety? It's going to increase it. So like we need to build time into the schedules to allow kids to come out. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. And it doesn't have to be multiple times a week. Maybe once a week there's a 30-minute block where kids go to one teacher's class and it's not a course. That's where they go. And if they don't have somewhere else to go, they can work on stuff. Right? Maybe they have a packed schedule after school. They don't have the time at home to get work done. Maybe they can do that. That's the time where they can be pulled out of class. Cell phone policies. I'm not going to open this huge can of worms right now because I'm sure we all have different thoughts on this, but I am currently working in a district that decided to go with a zero-tolerance cell phone policy mid-year. Right? We just decided like we can't do this anymore. It was one of the biggest risks I could ever see a principal taking. My principal took it, and it's been amazing. So we have just, they're not allowed. You have it out, you face consequences, okay? And so as an AP, the first 2 weeks were the worst first 2 weeks of my entire teaching career, or educational career. I did nothing but sit in my office as a parade of kids came in. All right, hand over your phone. What's your mom's number? You gotta come get the phone. Saturday school, next. Okay, come. That's all I did for 2 weeks. It was the worst, but it's made an impact. Now it happens so much less. In fact, when a kid comes down on the phone, I'm like, what's wrong with you? You know what the policy is, I got it out, right? And so you might be wondering, like, what's that got to do with social and emotional wellness? But the kids are having less conflict during the school day because they're not engaged in back and forth stuff on social media. And they're not looking at social media right before a test and being like, oh my gosh, she's so smart, I'm gonna fit. Like, it's not happening. So that's not to say we don't have conflict in our school, we do. But the conflict that arises from social media use has decreased significantly. I mean, it was like a daily event. You'd have kids coming like, look what she posted, right? And they would be, I'm like, you're in class, why do you know about that? We don't get that anymore, okay?